So welcome to you all, and welcome to you all who are here in the moment, and welcome to you all who will be viewing this recording later. This is session 3 of 4 sessions, mini sessions on stress management. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Judi England, and I'm a nurse, I'm a meditation and yoga teacher, and a wellness educator. Excuse me. And I'm doing this as a volunteer to Unity House to try and support the staff in dealing with all the difficult situations that they have to deal with. Excuse me, talking too much. Anyway, so in the previous sessions 1 and 2, we looked at what happens in the body, in our minds, when stress arises. And in session 2, we actually explored that the idea that a certain amount of stress can actually be helpful to us. We looked at something called the Goldilocks zone, which is, too little stress and we're bored and we don't perform well, too much stress and we suffer from burnout, compassion fatigue. But just that right amount of stress can prime us to learn to new creative ways of thinking and being in stressful situations. We talked about the idea that how we think about stress can be impacted by how we define it. So the words that we use, whether we view stress as a crisis, a threat, or some kind of an opportunity, can make a lot of difference in how we react. Did either of you have the opportunity to do the homework assignment for last week, by any chance? Okay. So what I had asked folks to do was to notice when stress arose during the day, to notice what the trigger was for that stress, to notice how your body feels. What was the sensations that were coming up for you when you felt stress, whether it was you were noticing that your heart was beating faster, that your mouth felt dry, maybe you had some tension in your stomach, tightness in the chest, whatever it was you were noticing. Also noticing what thoughts and emotions arose when you felt stressed. And then noticing too, based on that discussion in the second session, were you viewing this situation that was making you stressed as a threat or an opportunity? And then based on that, what did you learn about yourself from that situation? So if you didn't have an opportunity to do that last week, I would invite you to go back. The recording is posted. I have to apologize because right smack dab in the middle of the session, my dogs decided they were going to howl. And since I was the one who was talking, I couldn't silence my microphone. So that was kind of stressful for me, noticing that the dogs were howling and not being able to do anything about it. Anyway. So this week, we're going to get on to some really practical stuff. What are some ways, some techniques we can manage stress in the moment, to calm our bodies, to clear our thinking? And first and foremost, we're going to begin with the breath. And why do we begin with the breath? Because it's with us all the time. We don't need any special equipment. We don't need any special place. We don't need any special time. Hopefully, if you woke up this morning and you're walking around, you're breathing. So that's a good thing. And the research shows, welcome Nina, she's joining. Welcome Nina, we're just playing catch up here. Just getting on to what we're going to be talking about today, that we're going to be practicing a breath technique to manage stress. And we use the breath because it's always present. And we also know from research that how we feel affects how we breathe, and how we breathe, conversely, affects how we feel. So if you think about a time when you were happy or you were anxious or you were sad, this was all showed up in the breathing. And also if you're excited, if you're stressed, your breath is going to be affected by that as well. The other reason why we focus on the breath is that by coming back to what's happening in the body, it helps to guide us away from the worrisome thoughts. A lot of what happens in a stressful situation is not the event itself, it's our interpretation of the event. I was talking about, suppose you get an email from your boss saying, I want to see you in my office in 5 minutes. Now you might get a little anxious about that and not knowing what's going to happen. So it could be something really good. Maybe you're going to get a promotion or a raise, or maybe you're going to be called on the carpet, but your mind will generally go to the worst possible scenario, and that's when the stress arises. The other thing about breathing in a particular way, the way we're going to explore together today, is that if the stress response triggers the sympathetic nervous system and all those chemicals that we talked about, the adrenaline, the epinephrine, the cortisol, by breathing in a particular way, we're going to stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the opposite of fight or flight. It's rest and digest, which helps us to down-regulate that sympathetic nervous system and return us to balance. So we're going to practice together. I invite you to get comfortable. So find a comfortable way to sit, whatever that happens to be for you. You want to make sure that your feet are flat on the floor. If you're wearing glasses, you probably don't need them. You can take them off. Your eyes can be open or closed, whatever you prefer. It's not going to affect the practice. And just begin by noticing how it feels just to sit and just to breathe. You don't need to change a thing about the way you're breathing in this moment. Just notice. And if you like, maybe you can focus on where in the body the breath feels the strongest. So feel your body at rest in the chair. Feel your breath. And if your mind starts to get busy, which it almost certainly will, just allow yourself to go back to the breath. There's always the next breath. So now, if you can, begin to soften and expand your belly as you begin the inhale. You can even lightly place your hands on your belly to feel it expand as you breathe in and sink back towards the spine as you breathe out. So breathing into the belly and allowing the breath to fill the chest all the way to your shoulders. And then allowing the exhale to pour from your body, shoulders, chest, and finally belly. So you're creating waves of breath, beginning in the belly, moving up through the chest, and exhaling from the top down. And each time you notice that your thoughts are pulling you away, maybe to something that happened earlier in the day or what may happen later in the day, just go back to the breath. Now, if you can, begin to adjust that breath a little bit more. See if you can breathe in to the count of 4 and exhale to the count of 4. So the breath is pretty full, but there should be no sense of struggle or effort. Just breathing completely. And once again, if that works, and you're feeling comfortable, see if you can add a little pause between the end of the inhale, the beginning of the exhale, and again at the end of the exhale before you begin the next breath. So at your own pace, breathing in, breathing out, creating that slight pause. See if you can continue that pattern for 5 more breaths. Once you complete that last breath, you can release the technique and just let your natural breath return. As your natural breath returns, take a moment to notice how you feel, particularly noticing if you feel different than when we began. Just another breath or two. And then just letting yourself stretch a little bit. Oh. Oh. Coming back into the moment, coming back into your body. Nice stretch, Nina. Okay, so you can unmute yourself. I want to do a little check-in. How do you feel? What did you notice?
More relaxed after going back to the regular breathing, and also just more centered, probably, that kind of labeling the thoughts. This is a thought about my kids. This is a thought about my health. And then that kind of then quieted some of that chatter. So kind of more in the moment.
The mind can be a very busy neighborhood, can it? Yeah, and that's what the mind likes to do. The mind likes to think. So what we did, and this is really kind of a surprise for people because we like to think that the mind is such a amazing, it's an amazing organ and it's very complicated, but it's also very simple. And it's simple in the fact that it can only effectively do one thing at a time. Now I know if you're a multitasker, raise your hand because I'm right in there with you. But that science shows that we can really only effectively do one thing at a time. So what was I asking you to do, Nina?
Focus on my breathing, which would mean letting all the other things I was trying to focus on go.
Yeah, your mind was busy doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So what about you, Alba? What did you notice?
I noticed the same thing. I was more relaxed after doing the exercise, and I became more aware also of my body, like maybe where I was holding some tension, and I know that where I hold tension usually is in my shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
But the same thing, I noticed that my mind was wandering a little bit. But every time I tried to bring it back to my breath. And I think as we went along through the exercise, I was able to do that more. Kind of letting go of like the chatter and just really be focused on the breathing.
Yeah. Yeah. So yes, that giving the mind something to do. So, you know, you notice that you felt more relaxed, and what that probably means is that you felt, like you said, your shoulders, and
Yeah.
that's where a lot of my tension goes as well. You know, I
Yeah,
find
it's like,
myself doing this, you know, without even half trying. So I have to really like let
yeah.
it go. So you notice those sensations, and you notice them early on. And if you've ever had the kind of day where one thing just happens right after another, one stressful event after another, that by the end of the day, your shoulders are up like this and you have a screaming headache, hopefully by practicing this technique, you can do it periodically during the day to dial it down so that it doesn't build up to that level where it's causing you problems.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the things you notice, but what you couldn't notice that's actually happening in your body because that parasympathetic nervous system was triggered is that your heart rate slowed down, your blood pressure went down. Did you notice even before I asked you to slow your breathing down, that your breathing was kind of automatically slowing down?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So those are all things that stimulate this relaxation response in the body, which is very, very useful to be able to do. So how do you think we can use this technique? When would be some situations that you might want to call it up and practice?
I don't know. My anxiety is so constant. It's more like, I don't know when it wouldn't be helpful. uh, Probably when I'm feeling reactive would be one of the times where when I'm aware enough to know that I'm getting angry about something or upset about something, before I engage any farther than the thought that's going through my head, to maybe put a pause on that, before sending an email, writing a text, or communicating with anyone who might be around me.
Right, right. It's very effective in creating that, you know, like you press pause on a play button, you know, you push the pause button. So once you increase the space between the stimulus and the response, that allows you to be much more effective, much more skillful in the response that you choose. And as we talked about last time, that little bit of stress, noticing it, tapping into it, there's another chemical, the DHEA, which is surging through your body, which encourages you to come up with new, more creative approaches to stressful situations. So by creating that pause, pushing that pause button, it's extremely effective in utilizing those stressful moments. So your homework, can you guess what it is?
Practice.
Practice. Yeah. I always tell people when I teach a meditation class, I can't teach you to meditate. I can share some skills with you, but it's up to you to teach yourself. And the only way we get good at it is to practice every day. So your homework assignment, should you choose to accept it, is to set aside 5 minutes. I like to do it in the morning, just to start the day. Before you go to your laptop, before you go to your phone, take 5 minutes and simply sit with your breath. Set a timer so you're not watching your watch to see when 5 minutes are up. And it's kind of like rebooting your brain for the day. So it dials down the stress before you even start the day. So thank you very much for participating. We're going to check in next week same time, same station, we'll be doing another technique for relaxation called the body scan, which is also very effective. So I look forward to seeing all of you. Please share with your friends and coworkers. They're welcome, and we always post the recorded version of these sessions. Have a
Thank
wonderful
you.
day, everybody.
Thank you,
You
too.
too.
Thanks, you too.